J.R.R. Tolkien said, "Not all those who wander are lost." As I traveled back roads from Salina, Kansas to New Orleans, Louisiana over spring break, I was never lost, but oh did I wonder. I only had my final destination, New Orleans, but in between was not decided. I turned left or I turned right, I just went with the flow. My first stop was a wrong turn and a happy accident, which would be the atmosphere for the rest of the trip. The stop was Winfield, Kansas, where I met a stone carver.
My name is David Chapman. I'm retired from Xerox. I work now for the USD 465, in special ed. And I'm also artist, sculptor, I primarily work in stone and wood and do life-size and realistic work. I'm a child of the Midwest. I traveled a lot. My dad was in aircraft and everything, but I have lived in Winfield now, 35 years. I've always been interested in art, and I saw Lynchburg. They had the dollar horses. I went up there to get me one because I collected folk art, but they were out, so I decided to make my own, and that's got into wood carving that. And then when I moved down here, I got into stone because we have such beautiful stone here, the Silverdale stone for sculpture. I get my inspiration from nature itself. The stone and the wood, kind of give me inspiration for my ideas. Now the big ones down there are the bluegrass. Of course, Winfield's known for its festival, the Bluegrass Festival, and each one of those musicians were friends of mine that played those instruments.
Awesome.
So, and I named it "Let the Circle Be." I just played on words of. It's called "Let the Circle Be Unbroken," meaning let the music never stop.
One of the recurring things I noticed was monuments to each little town's uniqueness that I passed through. This idea that we're different than any other town, but at the same time, it was that they were all the same. That each person I passed had the same idea and this same hope for happiness that I myself had. There was also this idea of patriotism and a respect for veterans and for those who served, be it a small plaque or a giant monument. So I had my first sort of kind of rejection about someone I asked to interview. Back here you see there's kind of a carnival that they're setting up, and I asked if I could interview him just for class for a documentary I'm doing, and he was extremely tentative. Didn't want anything negative said about him, and said they open up at 1 o'clock, but wouldn't really comment aside from that. So probably not going to hang around till 1 o'clock to get some footage, but you see back there the arch and stuff of that, so interesting. As I arrived into Louisiana, I stopped at the Tourist Information Center right there off the interstate, and I talked to Nisi, who was a Shreveport native, and she talked about how even though she grew up in the area and has only ever left to go to college, that it is her home. In Shreveport, I realized that the need to leave the town you grew up in is a universal, regardless of where you live, but there's also this universal draw of a hometown.
Hi, my name is Nisi Martin. I'm a tourism information counselor here at the Welcome Center in Greenwood, Louisiana, right across the state line from Texas. I am from Shreveport, which is about 6 miles from here. It's right up the interstate. It's about a medium-sized city, 200,000 population. I've lived there pretty much all my life except for the years I was in college, and I was only an hour away then. I think it's a really awesome area. A lot of people my age want to move away because they say there's nothing to do, but I think that's crazy because if you move to Dallas, you'll do the same stuff you do here. You'll just travel a lot further to get. I love it here. I have no desire to move. I always have people asking me, well, do you want to move? No. Absolutely not. I love it here. I love to travel, but I love to come home.
All right. I'm Luke Frederick. This is Natchitoches, Louisiana. It's the oldest establishment in Louisiana Purchase. It's founded in 1714. Our store is also quite old. It's 150 years old. We're the oldest retailer in the state of Louisiana. We established in 1863 right here on Front Street, and we've been operating out of 3 locations here since that time, 3 locations on Front Street since that time. The interior of the building that we operate out of now was remodeled in 1932 and hasn't been touched since. The business has always been a general store, mainly serving the needs of the community in any capacity that we see fit to do so. Natchitoches is an extremely historic area. Houses the Cane River National Heritage Area that highlights plantation country along the Cane River in North Louisiana. There's several plantation homes that are still intact, that survived the Civil War, and really carves out a little niche in history for us. The store has been owned by two families, the Caffey family, who were Prussian Jews who left Europe in the late 1850s to escape religious persecution, and there were two generations of that family. And in 1920, my grandfather came in as a floor sweeper and delivery man and worked his way up to ownership a stake. In 1954, he was allowed to start purchasing stock in the company. By the time the second generation of Caffeys were gone or retired or died, he wound up having full ownership of the store, and here we are today. Don't get me wrong, there is still a great deal of agriculture, but not as much as there was, say, 50 years ago. The town has experienced phenomenal growth in the tourism industry because of the fame that Steel Magnolias, the movie, brought us. Steel Magnolias was filmed here in 23 years ago, and we've really been fortunate to ride the coattails of the success of that movie, and just the overall rich history that we have as being the oldest town in Louisiana Purchase. So.
Charles Bukowski wrote, "There was something about that city, though it didn't let me feel guilty, that I had no feeling for the things so many others needed. It let me alone." The Big Easy, a place of jazz, voodoo, Mardi Gras, and seafood. It is a town founded by sinners with streets named after booze and saints. It was my destination and my turnaround point. It was also where I stumbled across Jenna and Eric, two college students traveling the country making a documentary over their spring break on music. Something too coincidental for me to pass
Well, I guess the reason we decided to choose the locations we did were because of like the history behind the music, and we're shooting the video document on like the music scene and all these different locations. And
started out in Baltimore, went to Morgantown, West Virginia, Nashville, then Memphis, stopped in Jackson, Mississippi for like 30 minutes or so, and then ended up here last night, slept in the car, woke up, started today. As we were walking in the park, we saw this like little enclosure, and I was like, man, that'd be a really cool spot for a weekdays. And then like as we were walking back, usually in Baltimore, I do it at night, like broad daylight out, and we just were like, yeah, let's just do it. So I walked right up to it, picked it up for me, so it was cool. No problems either. Haven't had any issues with like cops, knock on wood.
yeah, it was pretty cool. There's also like another kind of collaboration with it.
Yeah.
Because like she does the weekend and I do like some writing and poetry. So we're like, it'd be cool if I could like respond to your images. Every city has like its flavor, you know, that like especially like we noticed that in Morgantown, like it's more of a college town, and then we go to Nashville and it's triple that amount of energy, but it's more like geared towards music. And compared to Baltimore and Nashville, the music scene is just more out there, you know, like there's a lot of music in Baltimore, but like it's not that open, like where you can just walk around. There's gonna be buskers all over the place, or you know, etc. Coming to New Orleans is just complete different atmospheres. It's like more relaxed vibe, and like I love the music around, and just like the influence, I guess, of like European culture, like on the
Yeah.
streets.
The way the streets are set up.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Europe a little bit.
As I was leaving New Orleans, I decided to go see the Banksy graffiti piece that Jenna and Eric had told me about. And then as I went and saw that and was making my way back to my car, I came across this crowd of people watching this group of buskers. And it was Raymond Bartlett and his street performing group, the Calypso Tumblers.
I'm a street entertainer and I've been doing it most of my life. I'm from a small place called St. Kitts. It's close to St. Lucia and it was colonized by the British. But what happened when I was a kid, I come into some people look like you, Peace School. And I asked them why they come to my poor island because I didn't know that I was living in paradise. So once I start traveling, everything just take off from that. I've been doing street shows for most of my life. My group name is Calypso Tumblers. It's on YouTube. You see all our clips and stuff.
Maya Angelou wrote, "Perhaps travel cannot prevent bigotry, but by demonstrating that all peoples cry, laugh, eat, worry, and die, it can introduce the idea that if we try and understand each other, we may even become friends."